Welcome to Kabbalah Explained Simply. I'm Gil Shear. Let me start off. Today we're going to talk about Gematria, which is the alphanumeric code of the Hebrew language. Let me start off by saying 918. And I'll continue by saying 590. Okay, so I hope you understand. What I actually said was, hello, how are you all today in Hebrew? Shalom, ma shlomchem hayom, which numerically, if you code it into numbers, then that adds up to 918. And then I said, I hope all is well. Ani mikaveh she'hakol tov in Hebrew. That's I hope all is well, which its alphanumeric code adds up to 590. So that's Gematria, but it's not just numbers. Gematria is much more than that. It's an ancient system of alphanumeric code, which basically connects letters and words and numbers and gives a spiritual story to every stroke of ink in the Hebrew language. It's the numeric code of all Kabbalistic texts, from the first book of Adam, Raziel the angel, and throughout all of the history of authentic Kabbalistic texts. And you don't have to be a mathematician to understand what Gematria is, or even how to use it. So if you don't like numbers, you have nothing to worry about. And if you do like numbers, then I'm sure you're going to enjoy another angle of this as well. So I see the comments are still coming in. It's beautiful to see that. Much appreciated. So we have quite a few viewers on Facebook and YouTube, a couple of hundreds, which is beautiful. So we have like this big classroom. Imagine you're sitting not at home alone on your computer. Imagine you're sitting in this big hall with people from all around the world, from all walks of life, from all ages, all religions, all backgrounds, all nationalities. And we're all sitting here together in this kind of virtual space, connecting around a certain Kabbalistic concept. So today, that concept is Gematria. All right, so are you ready to dive into it? Hope you are. If you have any questions, then please post them in the chats and I will take a look. And we have Rachel, who's going to be posting links here, and we have Ruth, who's helping out with a question. So it's great to have you both here, Rachel and Ruth. And let's get into it. All right, so let me just see if I can share my screen. Yes, here it is. Okay, let's turn on this nice pointer, which I like playing around with. There we go. So what is Gematria according to Kabbalah? Let's dive into it. Let's start talking about the foundation of Gematria. Okay, so to understand Gematria in the Hebrew language, so we need to understand the connection between these three things, between letters, Hebrew letters, that is, words and numbers. And I'll just say that when we're talking about Gematria, we're talking about Kabbalistic Gematria, which refers to Hebrew text and also Aramaic text. And this system called Gematria, it basically connects these three things, letters, words, and numbers. And what it connects it to a spiritual sensation. So it's alphanumeric code that basically, to put it simply, it has a number related to every letter in the Hebrew language. That's basically what Gematria is. So for example, the letter aleph, it has a alphanumeric code which equals to 1. And the letter ayin, the Hebrew letter ayin, for example, has an alphanumeric code which equals to 70. And every single letter in the Hebrew alphabet, all 22 letters, they all have a number related to them, and these numbers have some kind of meaning, which we'll get into in a few moments. Basically, this number, it resembles a code. And this code is the sensation, it's a sensation that the person who writes these words, the Kabbalist who writes these words and letters, it's a code representing the sensation that they receive from the general force of reality. Now, you might be wondering, what's the general force of reality? So we have reality around us, pretty much what we see and hear and feel and touch and sense, and maybe we have some things that we don't see but are still here, like radio waves and cellular waves and bacteria and microorganisms, and We have things that are beyond our reach to see, that are far deep into the galaxy, that we need telescopes and etc. to be able to look into them. So what is this sensation that a Kabbalist that writes these codes, what's this sensation that he receives from the general force of reality? You might be asking. And if you're not, then you should be asking. And if you want to ask it somewhere, then you can ask it in the chat. So basically, okay, it goes like this. So Kabbalah says that there is a reality that's all around us. We're immersed in it, actually. And it's a reality of perfection and ultimate fulfillment. You might be saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Perfection? Ultimate fulfillment? What are you talking about? Are you looking around? Are you digging your head into the ground? So yes, so Kabbalah is not digging its head into the ground. It's very practical and scientific, and it states that there is a reality of perfection and ultimate fulfillment all around us. Everywhere, we're in it, we're immersed in it. But the reality is concealed from us. Now, that doesn't make sense, because what we see around us is not a reality, like I wrote here, of perfection and ultimate fulfillment. We see a reality of disconnect, of crises, of coronavirus, of wars, of ego, and not a reality of perfection and ultimate fulfillment. So when these Kabbalists write something and they connect to this code that connects them to a general force of reality, then what reality are we talking of? So we're speaking of a reality that's concealed from us, and the reason why it's concealed, well, it's not really the reason, but technically it's concealed from us because simply we lack the correct sense to experience it. Just like a radio, if you're sitting now in a room and you're only hearing me talking, well, you should know that there are hundreds of songs playing in the room you're in right now. And no, I'm not crazy. There are hundreds of songs there, and all you need to do is turn on the radio and you'll hear all of these songs, not at the same time, but you can start playing around with the frequencies, and a certain frequency will tune in to a certain radio station, and a different frequency to another radio station, and so on. And this is a great example of the reality that's currently concealed from us. We are immersed in it. It is a reality of perfection and fulfillment, but we don't have the right sense to experience it. We have not tuned into the right frequency. That's basically why we don't perceive it. It's as simple as that. Now, in this session, we're not going to talk about how to tune into the right frequency. That's a different session. We're not going to talk about a person that gets in touch with this frequency. That person is called a Kabbalist. And the method that teaches how to tune into that frequency that can connect you to perfection and fulfillment, that is the wisdom of Kabbalah. Basically, Kabbalah in Hebrew means to receive. That's all it means, Kabbalah, receive. And it teaches you how to tune in to that frequency so you can receive that abundance, that ultimate fulfillment that is everything and everywhere around us. So that was just a quick kind of segue to understand what this reality that Kabbalists who write in this alphanumeric code are connecting to and deriving these codes from. If you want to learn more about this introduction, what Kabbalah is, what a Kabbalist is, how to tune into this frequency, then I recommend you check out our first video in the Kabbalah Explained Simply series. It's called What is Kabbalah All About? And I'm sure as I speak, Rachel is already posting it in the chat. So thank you, Rachel. And by that, we can move forward. So for now, let's just conclude that there is, take my word for it now, not later. Later, find out yourself and watch it and explore it and question it. But for now, just for the sake of the session, take my word for it that there is this reality of forces that are concealed from us, of ultimate fulfillment, and there are scientists called Kabbalists that have developed that sense, can tune into that reality, and what their experiences and sensations, like scientists to measure their findings, Kabbalists measure it on paper, and they write it down, and every letter and every word they write has some kind of numerical value to it, and that is Gematria. Okay, so if there are any questions about that, then feel free to ask. I'll be looking at the chats as we speak. Okay, so I don't see any questions for now. If you do have questions, then definitely post them in. And if it's all clear, then we can move forward. So if there are no questions, it means everything is clear or nothing is clear. So because I can just choose whatever I want, I'll choose that everything is clear. All right, so let's keep going. So what do I want to talk about next? Let's talk a little bit about letters and worlds. Okay, so Hebrew letters, and a letter is written in black, black ink. It represents kelim, a vessel basically. And a vessel in the wisdom of Kabbalah represents the force of reception, which is the only force that was created. So everything that was created, all of creation, you could say it resembles black, it resembles reception, it resembles a kli, a vessel. Vessel in Hebrew is kli or kos. And that's what the black letters represent. And the black letters, like you can see here, that letters are written in black, and they're written over a white background. That's how usually Kabbalistic texts were written, black ink over white parchment. And the white, it represents the light, the giving. And the interaction between the two is like this collision between the force of reception, us, all of humanity, all of nature, all of reality actually. The only thing that was created, the force of reception. Again, if you want to find out more about that, then I suggest you check out that video that Rachel just posted. And this collision between the force of reception and the force of bestowal, this gives birth to the Hebrew writings, the Hebrew texts. And all these texts, they have many different kind of ways that you can interpret them. So you have, for example, the shape of the letter, which represents a certain connection, a certain bond between the force of reception and the force of bestowal. For example, if you look at the letter, is this the right screen? Where's the pen? Here it is. So let's just make sure this is the right screen. No, this is not. I shared the wrong screen. Here is the right screen. So for example, the letter aleph in Hebrew. So this line represents the force of bina. And this line represents the force of malchut. And this line represents the parsa that is between them, between the force of malchut, the force of reception, and the force of bina, which is the force of bestowal. And every single letter in the Hebrew alphabet is basically the different interactions of these two forces. So you have vertical lines and horizontal lines, and each of these forces represent the forces of giving and the forces of receiving and the different interactions between them. We also have diagonal lines, which represent the transitions between these two states. And every single Hebrew letter is basically a representation of that. So basically Hebrew letters, they represent, like we said, kelim. The white background is light, and the shape of the letter is a certain bond between this force of reception and the force of bestowal. Okay, so altogether there are 22 Hebrew letters, and each of them has an alphanumeric code related to it, to one of these letters, which we'll take a look at in a second. And words add up, meaning if you take one word and you add up the letters of that word, then you get the numerical value of that entire word. And here is a quick look at the different letters of the Hebrew alphabet. But before we get to that, I'll just take a look at the questions. What are the numbers for? David Mancini is asking. The numbers basically represent code. Not only code, they also represent synonyms. So if different words or different phrases are equal in their numerical value, then it means they're spiritually that they're synonyms. From YouTube, Funny Games 93, what's the use of Gematria? Can I use it to get some meanings? The use of Gematria, I think that's similar to what David was asking. It's basically, it's similar to mathematics. So mathematics isn't really a science. Mathematics is a method, it's a study of numbers and shapes and patterns, and it's used in the different sciences to describe connections between different things. Similarly, Gematria isn't a science itself. It's also a method which, similarly to mathematics, it studies shapes, patterns, and numbers, of course, and it serves the science of Kabbalah, which is what we find from experimentation and discovery of the different forces of the hidden nature. So, and the second part of the question, can I use it to get some meanings? So I was actually going to get to this later on in the session, but I'll already bring it up now. There are a lot of videos, I think, out there, and a lot of people that are having all these kind of number games with Gematria, saying this equals this equals this equals that. And in fact, these games are pretty pointless if they're not as a result of that connection with the force that these letters and numbers were written from. It would be similar to, like, just taking mathematical equations, building them randomly, and then, you could get equations that are correct. You could have on one side 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6, and on the other side, 10 minus 4, that also equals 6. So is it true? Is it correct? Yeah, it's correct. But is there actual meaning to it? Not really. You can just randomly create infinite equations which are true statements, but they don't necessarily have meaning. But if you're a true mathematician and you understand the entire system, then you can start building equations that actually have meanings and that prove things and that resemble different forces of reality. So similarly, Gematria. It can be used for just simply, checking technically the numerical value of a name or a word or whatever, finding what it means. Okay, this is 42, and this is also 42, and this is also 42, and even just a scramble of letters can also equal to 42. But what does it mean? It means nothing if you don't connect to the forces where these words are from, and from them derive this code, which represents different synonyms, spiritually speaking. A question from Anna. So Anna's asking, it means we have different realities at the same time and we can choose our reality. Kind of, Anna. It's not that we have different realities at the same time. We have one reality, and it's absolute and it's unchanging, and it's a reality of complete perfection and fulfillment. But only our perception of it, the way we change our perception, changes how we see reality. So take a snake, for example. Let's say you and a snake are looking at someone. So the snake would see, this has been experimented, a snake sees through heat signals. So a snake would vision it according to hot or cold, hot body or cold body, etc. And you would vision it according to the different colors that reflect back to your eye. And a dog would experience the same person through enhanced sense of smell. So are these different realities? Not really. They're the same reality, that same person, which is basically an energetic object that we don't really know what it is, only how we perceive it with our senses. And Kabbalists, to attain that reality, they can describe this reality in different words. And every one of these words also has numerical values. So it's one reality, but we are changing. And as we change, we experience it differently. Let's see. A question from Felicia. The Gematria of my name foretells many obstacles. It was suggested to me decades ago to change the spelling of my name, to change the number to one less bad. Any truth to this? Great question, Felicia. This is, I would say, another misconception of Gematria. Yes, there is a spiritual root to a person's name, and actually, it's a good question because I've prepared an answer for it. It's a little bit later on in the session, so Felicia, if you don't mind, I'm going to copy paste this question, and I do have a slide about this, so it's a good question. And the slide is your spiritual root equals your spiritual name. So we will get to that in a second. Does Kabbalah say anything about seeing repeating numbers when you look at a clock, like 222? Is this the Creator sending us messages? Thank you for the question, Mariam. It is no more the Creator sending us messages than it is through looking at any randomness in nature. There is randomness all around us. Statistically speaking, if you look at a clock a certain amount of times a day, there are quite a lot of variations that can bring to seeing, 222, 333, 303, 123. You could see there are so many random variations that could seem like something special, like 222 or 333, etc. That statistically speaking, if you look at a clock enough times a day, the chances are that you will come across one of these combinations. It has no spiritual meaning to it. Everything around us is this force of nature, this creator, if you want to call it that. But special random numbers on a clock don't have any special meaning. Patricia is asking, is it a moral code? Good question, Patricia. No, it is not a moral code. Kabbalah does not talk whatsoever about any morals at all. Let me switch to this screen. We have a nice network in the background. No, so Kabbalah does not talk whatsoever about any moral codes, because morals are something that is related to this world, and that's what morals are. Hold on, do we have some kind of error here? I think we might have a little. Okay. Wow. Okay. It seems like we had some kind of interesting copyright claim on Facebook, although we did not use any external materials, but only our materials. Okay, that's interesting. So we're live on Facebook only. It looks like it. Let's just take a few seconds to see if we can solve that. Okay, it looks like we could resume that, but it seems like, okay, that's interesting. Wow, I guess we really rocked some spiritual worlds here. So I hope we're still live for those of you who are on Facebook. So I hope this didn't cut you guys off. So please just give a confirmation if you can. Maybe Rachel can post the link to the YouTube broadcast. It seems like on YouTube we're fine. So if Rachel, if you can post the link, actually I have it here, let me just post that. So I'm going to post in the Facebook chat. It seems like we had some kind of error on Facebook. So I posted the link to the YouTube video there, to the same stream on YouTube. So if you experienced any issues on Facebook, then just pop over to YouTube. It seems like it's all going fine there, and we'll keep going. All right, so where were we? Okay, yeah, sorry. So I was answering Patricia if it's a moral code. So no, it's not a moral code. Kabbalah does not speak of any moralities. If you ask, and the proof that there is no moral standard is just look throughout history. Ask Germany what moral is considered in World War II. Go to a nice German family who lives, in the time of World War II, and ask them what they think moral is. You might get one answer. Go, I don't know, 150 years back in America, ask a black person there what they think morals is, or a white person who who lived in America at that same time, what they think morals are, right? So morals change, and Kabbalah, and they're related to social aspects of humanity, and Kabbalah speaks entirely of the spiritual, of this reality, this layer of reality that is concealed from us. And this layer of reality is absolute and unchanging and unrelated to any subjective perception. It is completely, it's a reality of light, actually, and light is unchanging. So no, it does not resemble any moral code whatsoever. Can this numerical code be transferred into English? No, Christine. The method of Gematria, it only can be used for Hebrew Kabbalistic writings. Nadav, why would we need such a language? You could say it's an advanced tool for Kabbalists to communicate different objects, different spiritual objects in a way of synonyms which have similar meanings. So, like I said before, it's very kind of sexy to have name comparisons and this and that. But in fact, it's meaningless if you don't do it from attaining these forces. So you only need such a language if you are already in attainment of these forces, and then you can use it like a poetic dictionary, that you can connect different discernments from these forces you attain and describe them with different synonyms in different ways and different discernments and different patterns. That would be use of such a language. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's have a look at some numbers, because this is a session about Gematria, so we do want to see some numbers happening here. Okay, so back to the presentation, and here we are. Okay, so what we're looking at now is we are looking at all of the Hebrew alphabet: aleph, bet, gimel, daled, hey, vav, zayin, chet, tet, yod, kaf, lamed, mem, nun, samech, ayin, pei, tzadik, or tzadi, depends how you want to say it, kuf, kof, resh, shin, taf, and these are the 22 Hebrew letters. And there are also final letters in Hebrew, which is the final kaf, the final mem, the final nun, final pei, final tzadik. These different letters are basically repetitions of the same letters here, but there are 5 special letters that when appearing at the end of the word, they're used as final letters. So if the letter kaf appears as the last letter of a word, instead of using this writing of kaf, this final kaf is used instead. Now, each one of these letters has a numerical value related to it. So aleph is 1, bet is 2, gimel is 3, etc., etc. The first section, aleph to tet, meaning the first 9 letters, they basically they represent the ones, and they represent bina. Then you have yod, kaf, lamed, mem, nun, samech, ayin, pei, tzadik. They represent the area of tens, and they represent zeir anpin, which zeir anpin is represents a small partzuf. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. It's 6 sefirot, which together are called Zera Anpin, but we're not going to delve into the sefirot now. We had a session, was it last week or the week before, about sefirot. You can check that out too. And then finally, we have the Kuf, Resh, Shin, Taf, which represent the hundreds, and they represent Malchut. So each one of these letters, they represent the different, it has different numerical value. All of these letters, meaning all of the 22 letters, are formed in the world of Atzilut, which is the highest world of the spiritual worlds: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And the final letters are, you could say, the transition between the world of Atzilut and the worlds of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So there isn't room on this slide here, but this, you could say, is the world of Atzilut. Over here is the transition, and then below that, below this line here, would be the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Now you can maybe understand why the final letters are all extended. They're long, because they represent the connection between the corrected world of Atzilut and the uncorrected worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. That's why, besides the mem, all the final letters are kind of extended in their writing. Okay, so let's keep going. Take a look at some questions. Is the Zohar associated to Kabbalah? Thanks, Eric, for the question. Yes, of course. The Zohar, written by Rashbi, is basically the interpretation of the 5 books of Moses. The Zohar connects the spiritual sensations that are written in the 5 books of Moses and connect the thoughts and intentions of the author and the content of it to the spiritual worlds. So yes, absolutely, the Zohar is one of the primary books of Kabbalah. Let's see. Torah talks moral codes, and I'm told Kabbalah is in the Torah, so maybe I'm wrong, but set me right, please. Okay, Daniel, Torah comes from the word hora'ah, which is a method. Torah also means light. So when you talk about Torah, then you're actually talking about the method of Kabbalah. If you're referring to the 5 books of Moses as the Torah, the Pentateuch, then the Torah is one of the many Kabbalistic writings that is written entirely in code, and I recommend you check out the sessions that we had last week about, I think Rachel can post a link in the chat, about the session we had last week about it. There it's explained the different, all the lineage of Kabbalistic text and how it's related to the Sefirot and its relation to Kabbalah, how the different Kabbalists who attain the spiritual reality, starting from Adam, who wrote Razil the Angel, Abraham, who wrote the Book of Creation, Moses, who wrote the 5 books, the Torah, Rashbi, who wrote the Zohar, Ari, who wrote the Tree of Life, and Baal Sulam, who wrote the study of the 10 Sefirot and the interpretations to the Tree of Life, etc. All of these are all Kabbalistic texts that are written in code. This code can be interpreted also through Gematria, by the way. So you could say that according to Kabbalah, Torah and Kabbalah are the same thing. They're basically a method to connect a person to the reality of the light. Okay, so let's see if we have any more questions that are related to the topic now. Okay. Another question from Eric, is this reality, the perfection the Torah speaks of? Absolutely. Everything, this state of perfection that's spoken about in the Kabbalistic texts is exactly this reality. That is not after you die. There is no heaven or hell like we're taught as little kids, that this is heaven and this is hell, and if we're good we go to heaven, and if we're bad we go to hell. No, in Kabbalah, heaven and hell are actually states that a person experiences in this life. So you can experience a state called heaven, that's you in connection to these spiritual worlds, and you can experience a state called hell, that is you in disconnect from these spiritual worlds. And that disconnect, once a person identifies the need for these worlds and is not yet connected to them through this state of yearning, that is experienced as a state called hell, you could say. So let's keep going. So let's get on to, there are some questions here about what's the meaning of this number and what's the meaning of that number, and what happens if this equals that, etc. So I do want to have a little bit of fun here with that, and let's take a look at some spiritual synonyms. All right, so we're going to take a look at a few things. We said that in Gematria, if something is equal in its numerical value, then it is a spiritual synonym, meaning it means it has the same spiritual quality. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of spiritual synonyms and try and make some sense out of that. So here we go. Bear with me. I'm going to do a little bit of numbers, but they're going to be easy, so no worries. Okay, so let's take a look at the first word that I want to kind of break down into its numerical value. And that first word is Elohim. So let's just give it a bit of a shchupchik. So Elohim, which means God. So aleph is 1, lamed is 30, hey is 5, yud, usually just as a custom you write the hey a bit longer because hey represents the explicit name of the creator, so that's why usually you add a little longer line to it. But really this is the letter hey, and yud is 10 and mem is 40. Alright, so who's quick at maths? What does that add up to? 40 plus 10, 55, 85, and all this equals 86. Alright, so Elohim adds up to 86. Alright, let's see what we have here. Let's look at the word hateva. Okay, so hateva, it means nature. That's what it means in Hebrew. Hateva, the nature, you could say. So hey equals 5, tet equals 9, bet equals 2, ein equals 70. So who's quick on maths? You guessed it, 86. All right, so what does this mean? It means something very simple, and Baal Sulam, he also relates to that. Baal Sulam is a prominent Kabbalist of the previous century, who we teach and study in Kabbalahinfo. So basically, it means that nature and this force that we call creator are one and the same. And everything around us, and this connects to what we said before, everything around us, all of reality, all of nature, all of the galaxies, the universe, the trees, the animals, the plants, the rocks, the minerals, your cat, all of that falls into this system called nature, and all of that equals to this force called God, or the Creator. So the Creator isn't some kind of being like in The Simpsons. He's usually depicted as some kind of deep-voiced, long-bearded, long-haired, white guy sitting up in the skies. No, that's not at all the Creator. Also in religions, he's depicted something, it's a spin-off religions, so in Kabbalah, nothing like that at all. God is a force of reality. It's a force which equals to the force of nature. So connecting to the force of nature or connecting to this force of God is really the same thing. And they're spiritual synonyms. And let's keep going with this. Let's take another word. So the next word is kos. So those of you who speak Hebrew, kos means a cup, a kli, a vessel, basically. So kaf equals 20, vav equals 6, samech equals 60. No need to do maths here anymore, because I'm sure you already know that this too equals 86. So you could say the first one, God, the second one, nature, and the third one, vessel. They all mean the exact same thing in Kabbalah. So a vessel is what was created. So the only thing that was created, like we mentioned before, is this force of reception. So the force of bestowal seemingly is a synonym to this vessel of reception. And how can that be? They're exact opposites. So how can God and, you could say, the created, how could the creator and the created being, so let's say kos, vessel, is really the created being, and God is the creator. Right? So how can the creator and the created being be the same thing? So here, it's actually quite interesting that the purpose of the wisdom of Kabbalah is to bring the created being to be as one with this force of nature, as one with God. And that's why the wisdom of Kabbalah is called the wisdom to receive, because this course, this vessel, can only receive. It cannot do anything else. You cannot do anything but receive, because that is your substance, and that's not good, nor is it bad. And even if you do an act of giving, it is really a different form of reception. You give because it makes you feel good. You love someone because you love how it makes you feel, etc. Hope I'm not shattering anything big for anyone. If you've been following these lessons in the last few weeks, then I think it's clear by now. And that's all we are. So it's not good and it's not bad. It's just a fact. It's our substance. Substance is the force of reception. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is the wisdom of how to receive. And it's how to receive in a way that through receiving, with correcting the intention, which we're not going to get into now, we have a whole session about intention, but with the correct intention, you can be similar to this force of God. It's not what you do, because what you always will receive, but it's how you receive. It's what intention you receive. So that would be like, I always give this example. It's a bit grotesque, but it's very powerful. Imagine this scene of a knife cutting into flesh. Sounds horrific. It could be someone murdering someone, but it could be a doctor operating on someone to save their lives. The action is the same. The action does not change, but the intention completely changes the outcome. So similarly here, the action of reception is the only action that the created being, this vessel, can do, this course. But how it receives, that can change, and that's the wisdom of Kabbalah, the wisdom of how to receive. And by doing it correctly, then this force, kos, and this force, hateva, or Elokim, however you want to call it, God, they all become one. Because in Kabbalah, the equivalence of form is not, if two things are equal in their spiritual intention, they're not the same. They actually become one. There is no separation between them. And this beautiful synonym that Elokim, or nature, however you want to call it, is the same. It's a spiritual synonym for this vessel, for the created being. It resembles on the state that we need to reach. So that's a bit of some games with spiritual synonyms. And now, as I promised Felicia, I want to talk about one more short topic, which is your spiritual root that equals your spiritual name. Okay? So there's a lot of questions about names and what they mean in Gematria, and should I change my name, and my name means this and it means that. So yes, a person's name represents their spiritual kli, the root of their soul. But it doesn't necessarily mean what you think. It's not necessarily Felicia. That isn't necessarily your spiritual name. Like for example, Abraham, he was born as Avram, not Avraham, but Avram. And then he added the quality of altruism when he discovered the Creator. So the quality of altruism is resembled by the letter He. And then he added his He to his name to become Abraham. So that was the spiritual root of his name. Now, actually I'll take the drawing board, it'll be easier to describe this. So what does it mean that your spiritual root equals your spiritual name? So there is only one collective soul created. It's called the soul of Adam Harishon. And what we are is we're shatterings, we're pieces of that soul. So this soul, this is in the world of Atzilut, and this soul shattered into 600,000 pieces in the world of Asiya, and then later on into our world, it shattered into billions of pieces that we call humanity. So each one of us is a shattering, a piece of that collective soul. And each and every one of us has a root in this collective soul. So Felicia, this is you. let's say this is you over here, right? So Felicia, the fact that that's the name given to you by your parents, it has no spiritual meaning, because you, this point of yours, that is a point that came from the spiritual world, from here, there is a point which belongs just to you, which is your unique point, your unique root of your soul. And each one has this point here. And actually, unrelated to this session, but when we actually connect these points in this world, and then we start to resemble the spiritual worlds, and by doing so, by reconnecting to that root of yours, by rebuilding this shattered soul, then a person reaches the root of the soul. And the root of the soul isn't necessarily connected to the name that your parents gave you. The root of your soul is what your true spiritual name is. And that is for you to discover. So to go back to your question, the question was, basically you're asking if there's any truth in change, if there's a bad name for someone, if they should change their name, etc. So there's no need to change any names, only to aspire to rebuild this shattered soul and to find your true spiritual name there. And each person has their unique individual point in this general system, and has their unique role as well. And that's why the wisdom of Kabbalah, it also talks about maintaining the individual qualities each person has, because everything that you're born with is given to you perfectly, exactly, by this force of nature, or the creator, or however you want to call it. And it's given to you to take this kli of yours, this kos, or this kli of yours, and to use all of your qualities, which most of them are concealed from you now. You don't even know what your true qualities are. There are some qualities that are like your corporeal, psychological, bodily qualities, which are evident to you, and all of those too are all destined to be used uniquely in the certain pattern which builds who you are, and to be used correctly to become like this force of nature, like this force of God. Okay, so wow, so we're almost out of time. Let's take a quick look at some more questions. How can I find my spiritual name, David asked. So I hope I answered that already. By reconnecting to the root of your soul, you will find your spiritual name. I'm going to do kind of a quick blitz just so I can get to a few questions. Steve is asking, is Gematria used in the Sod part of Pardes when reading the Torah? So Gematria is used throughout all of the Pardes, all of the 4 languages of Kabbalah, Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod. They're basically used when a Kabbalist attains a spiritual sensation which is tangible. That spiritual sensation has a few different discernments to it. It has the letter and how the letter is written, or the word, and it has its numerical value as well. So it's related to all of the Kabbalistic languages, which together build the Pardes: Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod. Does Leviathan have any relevance in Gematria? Any relevance that stands out to you, teacher? That's a question from Gander. There are many, many words and many name games that you can play. We're not going to go into different words and what they mean. I gave this example of spiritual synonyms of Elokim, God, Hateva, nature, and Kos, this vessel, as an example, because it has practical use for us. So as long as it has practical use, it's useful, and if it doesn't have practical use, then it's just theoretical and philosophical, and Kabbalah doesn't deal with philosophy. A question from Guy Vasquez. I want to learn about Kabbalah. Where do I start? Great, Guy. So we have KabU. It's our online learning platform where you can take beginner, intermediate, and advanced Kabbalah courses, not just about Kabbalah per se, but also things that are related to the wisdom of Kabbalah, It's basically our environment, which I'm sure many of our viewers here are already in. It's our spiritual gym where we can work out together with like-minded people who also want to discover the root of their soul. It's beautiful. I teach in Kabbu, as many of my friends do as well, and it's a beautiful place. I recommend you check it out. I'm sure the links are already in the chats, so you can check it out. If number is equal of two words, does it mean that they're equivalents in form? Like I said, on the one hand, yes, crypto. If things have, if they're equal in their numerical alphanumeric value, then they're spiritual synonyms. However, and this was kind of the warning I gave before, without attaining them, you can just play around with anything. You know, you could say, okay, so like I gave the example, you know, 2 to the power of 5 equals 32, but also 16 times 2 equals 32, or 30 plus 2 equals 32. So does that mean that these equations, these different sides of the equations are equal? Yes, they're equal. But does it necessarily have some kind of significant meaning? No, it does not necessarily have significant meaning. Okay, Estelle Danielle, hello Gilad, who gave, how is this given to humanity? You could say it's forces that are embedded in creation, just like mathematics is a method that describes reality. I would say it's not so much an invention. Some of the areas in mathematics you could say are inventions, but others are discoveries of patterns in nature, like pi, like e. They describe different relations and ratios in nature, so they're more discoveries. So you could say that this alphanumeric code of Gematria is embedded into the system of creation. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Kabbalists believe the world was created by numbers and words. No, the world was not created by numbers and words. There is actually a nice allegory in the book of Zohar where every letter kind of asks the creator why it wants to be the first letter of the Bible. It's in the Zohar, but it's an allegory, of course. The world was created, or not the world, the created being, this force of reception, was created by the force of bestowal in order to fulfill it, and that was the only thing that was created, and everything else is outcomes. What else? Let's see what else we have here. Okay. So the term Francis Nelson, so the term upper forces used in Kabbalah is actually referring to states of consciousness in man. Correct, Francis. They are referring to states in man, upper forces. There is only one. There are only two forces in all of reality: the light, or creator, or nature, and kli, vessel. And that's it. And everything, the 10 Sefirot and the 22 letters and the entire Bible, which actually started off just from a single word. You know, all of the Bible that Moses got, he started it off with a single word, and that described the entire Bible. And that was the description of a sensation. And that description was then later on broken down into the hundreds of pages that we know as the Bible. You might be asking, wait a minute, but how can it be a single word? So maybe it's a little bit like, what's it called in optics? Dispersion, where you have like this one ray of light. It's like I'll show you a picture of it. I'm sure you've all seen it. You've all seen dispersion in optics. So basically, here we go. So in optics, we have this thing called dispersion, which basically means that you have this one ray of light, but inside that ray of light, there are all the colors. And because this light hits some kind of object which has different coefficients then the different colors break separately with slightly different angles, and then they become visible. So can you say that this ray of light and these are the same? Yes, they are, but this is, you could say, a detailed expansion of what is in this upper light, in this single raw abstract of light. So similarly, all of these Kabbalistic findings are discoveries of a single and unchanging form called the light, or the creator. Wow, there are so many great questions, but unfortunately we have to call a wrap and finish up for today. But please post your questions in the chat, and I do pop into the chats of all the Kabbalah Explained Simply, and I try to also answer questions that you write in the chat. So if you have any questions, then just post them in the chat and I'll take a look at them. Maybe we'll even create kind of a general Q&A session based on the different questions from the different sessions. That's it. So it was great to be here with you all, and thank you all very much. And if you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button, the subscribe button, and we'll see you all next week. I'm Gil Shear, and this is Kabbalah Explained Simply, and today we learned about Gematria. So thank you all very much. See you later.